For something to come up on the screen. Ooh, wow. It's amazing. We got an amazing team here to make things happen. Is that AC turned down to like 68? I turned it down when I came in. It feels a little warm in here. Okay, let's go ahead and pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity. We come together on your Father's Day to gather before you to learn of your ways, of the things that please you, and to help us to be better servants for you. So we just pray that you open up each and every heart as we go through your word, your words of life, and may they find a resting place in each and every heart. In Yeshua's name I pray, amen. Okay, so this week's Torah portion is Ray from Deuteronomy 11:26 through 16 through 17. Going to go through, as I usually do, just a brief overview of what is in each chapter. Then we're going to read most of the chapters. I think we may skip the one that goes through all the animals that are clean and unclean, just for the sake of time. All right, but so let's go ahead and if I turn my mouse on, it might help. Okay. So, summary overview. In chapter 11, verses 26 through 32, it covers the blessing and the curse that Yahweh sets before the people. He talks about the blessing on Mount Gerizim, the curse on Mount Ebal. Chapter 12 gets into the statutes and judgments they were to perform in the land. They were to destroy all the pagan places of worship when they came in and conquered the land. Only the place where Yahweh, and you'll see this common theme throughout this Torah portion, the place where Yahweh chose to place his name. There's only two places. There might be three. I think there's two main ones. What are they? Does anybody remember? Shiloh and Jerusalem. So Shiloh was like for 300-400 years, but Jerusalem's been the place since then. It's the only place where Yahweh chose to place his name. Shall you seek and bring your offerings, tithes, sacrifices, and heave offerings? You shall not do, this was interesting, you shall not do after what you do here, every man what is right in his own eyes. So even then, when before they were getting ready to enter the land, Yahweh said, you shall not do what you do today, every man doing that which is right in his own eyes. I always thought that was future, but it was actually also pointing to them at that time. Chapter 12 deals with you must eat all tithes, offerings, and freewill offerings before Yahweh in the place that he will choose. Chapter 12 gets into if the journey to the place he chooses to place his name is too far. Concerning the feast, you may eat the tithes and offerings within your gates. The blood shall not be eaten. The holy things, though, which you have, however, must be taken to the place where he chose to place his name. So there's a distinction there. Observe and hear all these commands that it may go well with you. Chapter 13 gets into enticers to idolatry must be stoned. If your brother, son, daughter, or wife entices you, you shall not consent or pity them. All Israel shall hear and fear and do no more wickedness. The latter part of chapter 13 gets into if a city turn the inhabitants to go after other gods, you shall diligently inquire, and if it be so, then the city and the spoil shall be destroyed. Chapter 14 gets into God's children shall not disfigure themselves for the dead, and gets into the eating, or God's children shall not eat any abominable thing, gets into the clean and the unclean. And then I have a New Testament scripture to reference when we get to that point. Chapter 14, the latter part deals with do not eat anything that dies of itself. You shall not see the kid in its mother's milk, which is also a quote from Exodus 23:19. And I do have a commentary on that when we get to that. You shall eat the tithe and offerings in the place which Yahweh shall choose to place his name. Chapter 15 gets into the year of release. At the end of 7 years, there shall be a year of release. You shall lend unto many nations. And why is it doing this? I don't need advertisements. Let's see. At the end of 7 years is the year of release. You shall lend unto many nations and not borrow. And there's stipulations. If the people's conduct was such as Yahweh described, then you shall lend to many nations and not borrow. It goes on to talk about do not refrain from helping your poor brother. And then rules for Hebrew slaves, 6 years shall he serve, and in the 7th year he shall go free. You shall not send him away empty-handed. If he choose to serve, then he shall be a servant forever. The last part of chapter 15 gets into all the firstlings of the flock shall be sanctified unto Yahweh. You shall eat it before Yahweh year by year in the place that he shall choose. You see how many times this term in the place that he shall choose comes up? No blemished offering shall be sacrificed unto Yahweh. And in chapter 16, and we're not going to get into the details of the calendar, but just a few points will be made. But observe the month of Abib, keep the Passover unto Yahweh. The Passover sacrifice must be offered before Yahweh in the place that he shall choose. It may not be offered in just any place. You shall eat no unleavened bread 7 days. The Passover offering must be eaten and nothing be left and remain until morning. The Feast of Weeks and Shavuot shall be observed. Count 7 weeks starting from the season of the barley harvest, from the morrow after the Sabbath during unleavened bread. And the latter part of 16, or latter part of this Torah portion gets into observing the Feast of Tabernacles after you have gathered in the corn, the wine. 3 times a year shall all males appear before Yahweh in the place that he shall choose. You shall not appear before Yahweh empty-handed. Every man shall give as he is able, according to how Yahweh blessed him. So as we go through the Torah portion, I'd like for you to look at thematic connections in the Torah that point to the work of Messiah. Okay, can we do that as we go through that? Let's try to find thematic connections that point to the work of the Messiah. Okay, so can I have a reader for chapter 11, 26 through 32. Chapter 11, verses 26 through 32.
Chapter 11, 26 through 32. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you listen to the mitzvot of Adonai your God that I am giving you today, and the curse if you don't listen to the mitzvot of Adonai your God, but turn aside from the way I am ordering you today, and follow other gods that you have not known. When Adonai your God brings you into the land you are entering in order to take possession of it, you are to put the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Both are west of the Jordan in the direction of the sunset, in the land of the Canaani, living in the Arava across from Gilgal, near the pistachio trees of Moreh. For you are to cross the Jordan to enter and take possession of the land Adonai your God is giving you. You are to own it and live in it. And you are to take care to follow all the laws and rulings I am setting before you today.
Okay, so we're going to, any comments on this section? It talks about the blessing if we obey and curse if we don't. It talks about Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. While you're thinking of a comment, who has been to Israel and has been able to see those two mountains? Okay. Did you say a distinction between those two mountains? Or did the guide tell you, did he give you any history on those two mountains? Go ahead, if you got a comment.
Mount Ebal has Joshua's altar on it, and there's not much population there. However, on Mount Gerizim, there is. It's a community.
Yeah. Is it a Jewish community or is it a?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I remember, and my memory isn't always accurate, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Mount Ebal, the mountain where they spoke the curses from, was kind of a barren mountain. And if I remember right, I think it was in the control of the Arabs. And in that valley between the two mountains is where I think it's upwards to 90% of the terrorists are trained and come from, in the valley between those two mountains. So that was an interesting point in our little tour. But so as Joe mentioned, Mount Gerizim, the Mount of Blessing, has a community, and it seems to be flourishing. Mount Ebal looks pretty desolate from the viewpoint, vantage point that we had. Yeah, Lori.
What I recall when I was there, I mean, I was part of Hayuvel, so we were living there on Mount Gerizim. In the morning, probably about 5 o'clock, you could hear the chanting of the Arabs come up, and it was such a harsh awakening. I would have preferred the roosters to wake me up. But when we did go to Mount Gebal, and I didn't realize this till I got back home and my feet touched the land of the United States. I sometimes have knee inflammation. I had no pain on Mount Gerizim, and no pain while we were traveling around in the vehicle. But I do remember that my knees all of a sudden started hurting when we were Mount Ebal. And I noted it, but I didn't really recognize it until I got home. And then my knees really started hurting when I got on the US of A. So it was really fascinating to me that my whole body was at peace and the frequency of the blessings being there until.
Teach Israel here is, if you obey my commands, it'll be as Mount Gerizim, and it'll be blessings, and it'll be a fruitful mount. But if you don't, it'll be as Mount Ebal, curses. And so just a visual picture of, and they are both mountains, and that if we decide to, whichever one we decide to follow, it is a huge decision. All right, so let's move on. If you don't have any comments, I need somebody to read chapter 12, verses 1 through, we'll divide it up into 2 readings, 1 through 16, and then 17 through the end of the chapter. So we'll finish the chapter, then we'll come back and comment. 1 through 16, and then 17 through 32.
Here are the laws and rulings you are to observe and obey in the land of Adonai, the God of your ancestors, has given you to possess as long as you live on earth. You must destroy all the places where the nations you are dispossessing served their gods, whether on high mountains, on hills, or under some leafy tree. Break down their altars, smash their standing stones to pieces. Burn up their sacred poles completely and cut down their carved images of their gods. Exterminate their name from that place. But you are not to treat Adonai your God this way. Rather, you are to come to put the place where Adonai your God will put his name. He will choose it from all your tribes, and you will seek out that place, which is where he will live, and go there. You will bring there your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tenths that you set aside for Adonai, the offerings that you give, the offerings you have vowed, your voluntary offerings, the firstborn of your cattle and sheep. There you will eat in the presence of Adonai your God, and you will rejoice over everything you set out to do, you and your households, in which Adonai your God has blessed you. You will not do things the way we do them here today, where everyone does whatever is in his own opinion and seems right, because you haven't yet arrived at the rest and inheritance which Adonai your God is giving you. But when you cross the Jordan and live in the land Adonai your God is having you inherit, and he gives you rest from all your surrounding enemies, so that you will be living in safety, then you will bring all that I am ordering you to the place Adonai your God chooses to have his name live. Your burnt offerings, sacrifices, tenths, the offerings from your hand, and all your best possessions that you dedicate to Adonai. You will rejoice in the presence of Adonai your God, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female slaves, the Levi staying with you, inasmuch as he has no share or inheritance with you. Be careful not to offer your burnt offerings just anywhere you see, but do it in the place Adonai will choose in one of your tribal territories. There is where you are to offer your burnt offerings and do everything I ordered you to do. However, you may slaughter and eat meat wherever you live and whenever you want, in keeping with the decree to which Adonai your God has blessed you. The unclean and the clean may eat it, as if it were gazelle or deer, but don't eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water.
17 through 32. Okay, I'll go ahead and read it. Thou mayest not eat within thy gates the tithe of your corn, the wine, the oil, the firstlings of the herds or the flock, nor any of the vows which you vowed, nor thy freewill offerings or heave offerings of your hand. But you must eat them before Yahweh thy God in the place that Yahweh thy God shall choose. Thou and thy son, thy daughter, thy manservant, maidservant, and the Levite that is within your gates. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh thy God in all that you puttest your hands to do. Take heed to thyself that thou forsake not the Levite as long as he lives upon the earth. Now that's an interesting command. He says, take heed that you forsake not the Levite as long as you live where? On the earth. Not just the land, but it encompasses the whole world. So that was an interesting point. When Yahweh thy God shall enlarge your border as he hath promised, and you shall say, I will eat flesh, because your soul longs to eat flesh, you may eat flesh, whatsoever your soul lusteth after. If the place which Yahweh thy God hath chosen to put his name there be too far from you, then you shall kill of the herd and of the flock, which Yahweh has given you, as I have commanded you, and you shall eat it in thy gates, whatsoever your soul lusteth after. Even as the roebuck and the hart is eaten, and you shall eat them, the unclean and the clean shall eat of them alike. Only be sure that thou eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and thou mayest not eat the life with the flesh. You shall not eat of it, you shall pour it upon the earth as water. And you shall not eat it, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, when you shall do that which is right in the sight of Yahweh. Only the holy things which you have, your vows, you shall take and go unto the place which Yahweh shall choose. And you shall offer your burnt offerings, the flesh of and the blood upon the altar of Yahweh, and the blood of the sacrifice shall be poured out upon the altar of Yahweh thy God, and ye shall eat the flesh. Observe and hear all these words which I command you, that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever, when you do that which is good and right in the sight of Yahweh your God. And when Yahweh thy God shall cut off the nations from before you, whither you goest to possess them, thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their land. Take heed to yourself that you be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before you, and that you inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto Yahweh your God, for every abomination to Yahweh which he hates have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. And whatsoever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. All right, do we have any comments on chapter 12? Yeah, Kevin.
I have a sore throat, so if I can't quite talk, but I have written notes for historical because I've been looking at this year the historical context, and I'd written down in Deuteronomy 12 that it was a principle that curved our own worshiping in our own ways and understanding, and I put down unified national service, and I already noted that, meaning that he was introducing to us because of what we experienced, not we, them, but for us as well, that there is I put down three words: authority, service, and collective responsibility. And he is always changing us away from doing everything that's right in our own eyes to there is an authority that we need to follow. There is a certain way we're going to do our service, and that we all have a collective responsibility for that. And I think to myself, I want to be careful, because I mean this in a wonderful way, that we can grow from. But I think sometimes as I walked out of my Sunday church, I found myself not really having that authority, knowing where to go, and I was just following what everybody else was saying we should be doing rather than a unified method of doing it. Does that make sense? And so I want to make myself grow and realize that there is certain protocols, certain things we have to follow. It needs to be followed in an order.
I
Any
have
other-
a comment.
Yeah, yes.
The first part, the destroy and smash their places, Gideon did that, and that can be seen in Judges 4:25, right? Gideon did it at night, which is interesting. And then down on verse 21, in Jeremiah 7:12, it says, "Go to the place in Shiloh that used to be mine, that used to bear my name, and see what I did to it because of the wickedness of my people Israel." And they've had a difficult time trying to determine where the temple stood in Shiloh, but there were other churches that were quite obvious where they were in Shiloh.
What verse was that mentioned Shiloh?
Jeremiah 7:12.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, it's sad, but the same thing happened in Jerusalem. Became a desolation. But it's still the place, it is still the place that he chose to place his name. And it's, yeah, go ahead.
Except in Jerusalem.
You don't mind.
In Jerusalem, you still have the wall. You know where the temple stood.
Yeah.
Right? In Shiloh, they think they know where it is and where it's measured out. But it's really, it's not firm like you see in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In Jerusalem, you can put your feet on some of the tiles that Solomon laid.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Yeah.
I was just thinking, interesting. She brought up past times where they burnt down, and I thought of the beginning is all about. I noted that before the blessing and curses were given in Deuteronomy, there's the Aleph Tav, and it wasn't at the Aleph Tav, the image of the serpent, the Aleph Tav, that they looked at to be healed in earlier in the Bible. But then later on, they actually created high places and put that image up there that they had to destroy. And where was that? Was my second question. Where was that? What story is that? I remember it, but I don't remember where.
Well, yeah. I remember
Was that in Isaiah,
at
or?
one point they began to worship it, and I thought it was kept in the ark. And but I didn't know they made a duplicate or a replica of it.
It was in the Astra pole, and they put it at the top. And
Yeah.
when he went in, I even don't remember who it was. I just remember the story of the Aleph Tav an image was created that they worshipped, and someone went in and destroyed it.
Yeah.
Anybody remember where that was?
No. Yeah. Lori had a comment up here.
Back in Deuteronomy 11, the commission that Yahweh is giving is, today I am addressing you, not your children who haven't known or experienced the discipline of Adonai your God, his greatness. So he is reminding these children that go into the wilderness that you must teach these things because you experienced it. So you have all the sensory things that led you to know, even if you didn't see it. And so connections to Yeshua, a lot of this had been forgotten by the time Yeshua got there, and they're still looking because things are really horrible. And it's the same thing that we're doing now. A lot of people have forgotten Yeshua and what God had commanded all of the people from the very beginning. We've lost that.
And the parable of the story of the man who built his house upon the rock and the man that built his house upon the sand. He says, "Those that hear my sayings and does them shall be like unto the man that built his house upon the rock. And he who hears my sayings and does them not shall be like a man that built his house upon the sand." You know, it's the same theme that we're reading right now, that they're, teaching Israel. You know, there's those two mountains. You know, it's a huge decision, and you pick the right mountain, there's a huge benefit. If you pick the wrong mountain, there's a huge consequences. You know. Okay, Dean.
2 Kings 23, Josiah took the pole out of the temple
Yeah.
and burned it and threw it in the Kidron Valley. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I remember Josiah was one who went through the land, but I didn't know he was the one that did that. Yeah. And Hezekiah. Yeah, 2 Kings. So what were those two texts again, Dean?
2 Kings 23, verses 5 and 6.
23, 5, and 6. And
2 Kings 18:4.
and 18:4. Okay, thank you. Okay. Another comment for one? Yeah, no, go ahead. For one who can't talk real well, he's talking a lot today. Kevin's got a comment, so can we get him the mic?
It was King Hezekiah. He went in. They were, and it's a matter of interpretation because the serpent and the cross of the Asherah pole was an image of Aleph Tav from the beginning of that. Because if you go back, if you do the connection, thematic connection, Aleph Tav is kind of the same And Paleo was the same concept.
Okay.
Sorry, Hezekiah.
Okay, we're going to move to chapter 13. So I need a is that okay, Amy? Can we move to chapter 13? Okay, chapter 13. Somebody want to go ahead and read the whole chapter? It's only, I think, 18 verses. I've got a reader up here.
If a prophet or one who foretells by dreams appears among you and announces to you a sign or a wonder, and if the sign or wonder spoken of takes place, and the prophet says, "Let us follow other gods, gods that you have not known, and let us worship them," you must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere. Keep his commands and obey him. Serve him and hold fast to him. That prophet or dreamer must be put to death for inciting rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt and redeemed you from the land of slavery. That prophet or dreamer tried to turn you from the way the Lord your God commanded you to follow. You must purge the evil from among you. If your very own brother, or your son or daughter, or the wife you love, or your closest friend secretly entices you, saying, "Let us go and worship other gods, gods that neither you nor your ancestors have known, gods of the peoples around you, whether near or far, from one end of the land to the other. Do not yield to them or listen to them. Show them no pity. Do not spare them or shield them. You must certainly put them to death. Your hand must be the first in putting them to death, and then the hands of all the people. Stone them to death, because they tried to turn you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt and out of the land of slavery." Then all Israel will hear and be afraid, and no one among you will do such an evil thing again. If you hear it said about one of the towns the Lord your God is giving you to live in, that troublemakers have arisen among you and have led the people of their town astray, saying, "Let us go worship other gods, gods you have not known," then you must inquire, probe, and investigate it thoroughly. And if it is true that it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done among you, you must certainly put to the sword all who live in that town. You must destroy it completely, both its people and its livestock. You are to gather all the plunder of the town into the middle of the public square, and completely burn the town and all its plunder as a whole burnt offering to Yahweh your Elohim. That town is to remain a ruin forever, never to be rebuilt, and none of the condemned things are to be found in your hands. Then the Lord will turn from his fierce anger, will show you mercy, and will have compassion on you. He will increase your numbers as he promised on oath to your ancestors, because you obey the Lord your God by keeping all his commands that I am giving you today and doing what is right in his eyes.
Okay. All right, any comments last chapter. So there's a thematic connection to the work of Messiah here, and it kind of goes back to that parable I mentioned earlier about the man who builds his house upon the rock and sea. Let's go to, I'll just pull it up here, Deuteronomy 18. Let's see here. Let's get this out of the way. In Deuteronomy 18:18, we know that this is the prophecy of the Messiah that was prophesied to come. It says, I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto you, speaking of Moses, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. So, and we can go through, I didn't have a chance to write all these verses down, but we know that Joshua said that I speak nothing of myself, but everything that I hear from my Father, that's what I speak. So this is truly a prophecy of the Messiah. And so let me ask you this. If what we're reading here in the Torah, you know, the decision to obey all his commands, and then it mentions in Deuteronomy 18 that the prophet that I will send, like unto Moses, I will put my words in his mouth just as I did Moses. Do you think the words he put in Yeshua's mouth was different than the words he put in Moses' mouth? No. So a thematic connection here to the work of the Messiah. Okay, any other comments or thoughts? Yeah. Here's the mic. Yeah, go ahead and use the mic.
When it talks about following other gods, when we think about it, I don't know, when we hear it as, for me, when I hear it as gods, I'm thinking about the gods of the olden times. But truly, anything that we place before God, whether it's entertainment, sports activities, those kind of things, those really can be our gods. And so if someone is distracting us saying, okay, let's go watch this ball game, or let's go do a sporting event, or let's go do whatever, rather than celebrating the Sabbath, we truly are enticing our brother away from being where we should be on the Sabbath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting point. Yeah, Tom over here. So when Yahweh said that in Genesis 2 that he sanctified the Sabbath and made it holy, he set it apart. It's a special day for him. And you know, I like to use the term, this is my Father's Day. This is the day that, you know, we have a Father's Day once a year for our physical fathers, but our Heavenly Father has a Father's Day every week. And so would it not be, we would all consider it not very honorable if we decided to not honor our physical father once a year. Do you think that he might feel the same if we don't want to honor him on his Father's Day once a week? Tom.
So this is, interestingly, and by design obviously, the same chapter and verse that Rabbi Benjamin took us back to when Yeshua was reading from Isaiah in Nazareth, and they were going to stone him, right? It's because of this chapter and verse. So even though it was a conviction of him, it was really a form of preaching in the moment that we were to make this connection, right? So similar to Father, Father, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah.
Right? Again, just making those connections for us
Yeah.
in the most direct way possible.
Yeah. So another verse that comes to mind when Yeshua said that when he was being challenged, and he said that if you would have believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. So that's another connection to this. And I wish I could give you the chapter and verse, but I can't. I just know the verse. Okay. Any other comments? Nick?
Another connection would be the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, where he says that, send someone back from the dead. He says they have Moses and the prophets. If they will not listen to them, neither will they listen if someone raises from the dead.
Yeah.
He's speaking of his own resurrection.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, any other comments? Some good comments. Okay, let's move on to the next chapter, chapter 14. And let's see, we have, get back to my Word document here. So we have 29 verses. So if we split that up, let's go to, I haven't heard one of those old rotary dials phones in a long time. Let's see, 14 through 15 and then 16 through 29. So we got a reader? Chapter 14, 1 through 15. We're good. Thank you, Matthias. Chapter 14, 1 through 15.
You are the children of Jehovah your God. You are not to cut yourselves or shave your forehead for the dead, for you are a holy people to Jehovah your God. For all the peoples on the face of the earth, Jehovah has chosen you to be his treasured people. You are not to eat any detestable thing. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roebuck, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. Among the animals, you may eat any animal that splits the hoof completely split in two, and chews the cud. Yet of those that chew the cud or have a split hoof, you are not to eat the camel, the hare, and the rabbit. Because they chew the cud, but do not split the hoof, they are unclean to you. The pig, because it splits the hoof, but does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. Of all that are in the waters, these you may eat. Whatever has fins and scales you may eat, but whatever does not have fins and scales, you are not to eat. It is unclean to you. You may eat all clean birds, but these are the ones you are not to eat: the eagle, the vulture, the buzzard, the red kite, the black kite, and any bird of prey of that kind, every raven of any kind, the ostrich, the owl, the seagull, and a hawk of any kind.
Go ahead and read down through 20, then we'll pick up with another reader.
The ostrich, the owl, the seagull, a hawk of any kind, the little owl, the great owl, the white owl, the pelican, the Egyptian vulture, the cormorant, the stork, a heron of any kind, the hoopoe, and the bat. All winged insects are unclean to you. They are not to be eaten. You may eat any clean bird.
Okay, 21 through the end of the chapter. Do we have a reader?
You shall not eat anything which dies of itself. You may give it to the alien who is in your town so that he may eat it, or you may sell it to a foreigner, for you are a holy people to the Lord your God. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. You shall surely tithe all the produce from what you sow, which comes out of your field every year. And you shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God at the place where he chooses to establish his name, the tithe of your grain, your new wine, your oil, and the firstborn of your herd and your flock, in order that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. And if the distance is so great for you that you are not able to bring the tithe, since the place where the Lord your God chooses to set his name is too far away from you when the Lord your God blesses you, then you shall exchange it for money, and bind the money in your hand, and go to the place which the Lord your God chooses. And you may spend the money for whatever your heart desires, for oxen, sheep, wine, strong drink, or whatever your heart desires. And there you shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God, and rejoice, you and your household. Also you shall not neglect the Levite who is in your town, for he has no portion or inheritance among you. At the end of every third year you shall bring out all the tithe of your produce in that year, and shall deposit it in your town. And the Levite, because he has no portion or inheritance among you, and the alien, the orphan, and the widow who are in your town, shall come and eat and be satisfied, in order that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hand which you do.
Okay. So we covered the clean and the unclean. I have a New Testament text I'd like to run to or go to. It's in 1 Timothy 4. And this is one of the verses that's often used to say, well, we can eat anything now. But there's a key word in here that can often be overlooked. And it's picking up in 1 Timothy chapter 4. And he's talking about in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, forbidding to marry, to abstain from meats which, now listen to this, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving. Okay, so sometimes we overlook that, okay? For every creature of God is good, and nothing to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving, for it is sanctified by the word of God and prayer. Now when it says sanctified by the word of God, what does that mean? There are certain foods that he created to be received with thanksgiving. Those are the sanctified foods. Those are the ones that we just talked about here in Deuteronomy chapter 14. Okay, so those are sometimes we have to kind of pay attention to the context. But again, Yeshua would not teach something different than what Yahweh gave him, that he gave Moses. Paul would not teach something different than what Yahweh gave Moses or Yeshua or him. Okay, so in fact, it's in Acts. There are several places, and I think it's Acts 22 or 20 or 22. It mentions there that when he was accused of violating some of the laws of the Jews, he said, "I have offended in nothing, either the law of Caesar or the law of Moses. Nothing have I offended or sinned against." So he confirms that he wasn't doing anything different than what he was taught from the Torah. Okay, so I have another comment back here.
Along with that, there's the verse that the Bereans were considered more noble than their brothers because they tested daily what Paul said, and the only thing they had to test Paul against was the original Testament.
Yeah.
The New Testament was still in the process of being written.
Yeah, in fact, there's a verse in the previous chapter where it talks about how do we know if it's from God or not. We prove it through the text. We prove it through the scriptures, the Torah. Yes, Amy.
What would be an example of a group that would forbid you to eat a blessed food? I can see the other where, you can eat pork, but I can't see, nothing comes to mind about, no, you can't eat what God sanctioned. What would be an example of that?
I don't have a good example. And I'm not going to say the vegetarians are in that group because I think they feel that's just a choice that they make, but they don't say it's wrong to eat from the biblical standpoint. So I don't know. Maybe somebody else knows.
Okay.
I got. Pardon?
Hinduism, you can't eat cows.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, there you go. There's a good one. Yeah.
I don't want to say the particular group because I don't remember if it was the Gnostics, but there was particular groups of thought, of Greek and Roman thought, that they wouldn't drink any strong drink. They would only drink water and eat bread. So that could be connected. I saw some stuff relating to that, but I can't remember if it was the Gnostics or the Stoics.
Yeah. We know that their theology was tied to some kind of pagan origin, okay? Because, if you remember the Rechabites, their father gave them, a certain guidelines to live by, don't own a home, be in a tent, don't drink wine, and we know that they were recognized as a people of faith and a people that followed the instruction of their father, okay? So we know that whatever this was, it had to be tied to some kind of idolatry theology. Yeah. Brian.
So I met a guy who was preaching for during COVID, saying that Yahweh told him and the people around him to start taking like zinc and the things that we have found that actually helps with that. Advancing to more current times, he is proclaiming that he has gotten a word from Yahweh telling everybody, all believers, to not eat any cows, any beef, no matter if it's organic or what. He says, do not eat this. I had a word from Yahweh saying don't eat this, for whatever reason it was. And I just think that's that's can be tied into what we're talking about here, but also is an example of testing the spirits.
Yeah.
He might have had a good word, and now he's being tested with the bad word. But I've had experience lately with something like that. So.
Okay. I do want to mention, for the sake of time, we're going to keep things moving. Boiling a kid in his mother's milk.
I think that's Kevin's favorite.
Go ahead, Laura.
So when you went to 1 Timothy, further down in verse 6, it says, if you present all this to his brothers, you will be serving the Messiah, Yeshua, well. It will show that you have digested the words of the faith and of the good teaching which you have followed. And so right there, he's talking about when Ezekiel eat the scroll, eat these words, that when we're reading this, we are actually digesting and eating the cleanliness of what Yeshua has commanded in agreement with the unclean and clean spirits.
Yeah. And don't we all agree that the words that he spoke in the Torah says that they're words of life?
Yes.
Oh. Okay. So concerning the boiling a kid in his mother's milk. So what's the connection there? This is a commentary. It's perplexed many commentators. It was a custom of the ancient heathens when they had gathered all their fruits to take a kid and boil it in the milk of its dam or mother, and then in a magical way to go about and besprinkle with it all their trees and fields, gardens and orchards, thinking these means to make them fruitful, that they might bring forth more abundantly in the following year. Now, as we began to read this Torah portion, remember Yahweh said, do not learn the ways of the heathen. When you go in to the land, do not follow me like they follow their gods. So in context, this boiling a kid in his mother's milk, I believe, is directly tied to the way the heathen were worshiping their gods. And this, if this is historical, it makes perfect sense. Okay, does that make sense? It's just one of the ways, in our custom, it's not known, this type of practice. But in their day, in the ancient Near East, there were many common practices that we weren't privy to. So sometimes the scriptures are kind of hard to interpret. So, all right. So with that, I'd like to read chapter 15. I know we're running out of time, but it should only take us a few minutes. So can a reader go ahead and read chapter 15, and we'll close with comments there, because this has some messianic prophecies connections that I want to tie into to end the Torah portion. Chapter 15. Do we have a reader? Okay, I'll go ahead and read. At the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release, and this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called Yahweh's release. A foreigner you may exact it again, but that which is thine with thy brother thine hand shall release, save when there shall be no more poor among you, for Yahweh shall greatly bless you in the land which Yahweh your God gives you for inheritance. Only if you carefully hearken unto the voice of Yahweh your God, to observe to do all these sayings, these commandments which I command you this day, for Yahweh thy God, he blesses you, and he promised you, and you shall lend unto many nations, but you shall not borrow, and you shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. If there be among you a poor man of one of your brethren within your gates in the land which Yahweh gives you, you shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand up from your poor brother, but you shall open your hand wide unto him, and surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wants. Beware that there be not a thought of in thy wicked heart, saying, the 7th year of release, it's at hand, and your eye be evil against your poor brother, and you do not give him anything, and he cry unto Yahweh again against thee, and it be sin unto you. You shall surely give him, and thine heart shall not be grieved when you give it unto him, because that for this thing Yahweh your God will bless you in all your works, and in all that you puttest your hand to do. For the poor shall never cease out of the land. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall open wide your hand unto thy brother, to thy poor, and to thy needy. And if a brother, a Hebrew man, or a Hebrew woman be sold unto you, and serve you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And when you send him out free, you shall not let him go away empty. But thou shalt furnish him liberally out of your flock, out of the floor, out of the winepress, and wherewith Yahweh hath blessed you, you shall give unto him. And you shall remember that you were a bondman in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh thy God redeemed you. Therefore I command you this thing today, and unto thee, I will not go away from you, because he loves you and your house, because he is well with you. Then you shall take an awl and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be your servant forever. And also unto the maidservant you shall do likewise. It shall not seem hard unto you when you sendest him away free from you, for he hath been worth a double hired servant in serving Yahweh 6 years, or serving you 6 years, and Yahweh your God shall bless you in all that you do. All the firstling males that come out of your herd and of your flock you shall sanctify unto Yahweh, and shall do no work with the firstling of the bullock, nor shear the firstling of your sheep. You shall eat it before Yahweh year by year in the place which he shall choose, thou and your household. And if there be any blemish therein, as if it be lame or blind, or have any ill blemish, you shall not sacrifice it unto Yahweh your God. Thou shalt eat it within your gates, and unclean. The unclean and clean person shall eat it alike, as the roebuck and as the hart, only thou shalt not eat the blood thereof, but you shall pour it upon thy ground as water. Many messianic prophecies and themes are in here. The year of release, at the end of 7 years. So if we think of a messianic, Sean's giving me the timeout, so I guess I'll be the last one to comment. In the year of release, at the end of the 7 years, it says that all males, or all those that have been servants shall be released. So I think of the millennial kingdom. At the end of the millennial kingdom, what's one of the things that's going to be destroyed forever? Death. So here we see a messianic prophecy at the end of the millennial kingdom that everyone will be released. At least those that obey him will be released and freed. So that's one messianic prophecy. The servant who decides, a person who has been bought as a servant shall serve him 6 years, his master for 6 years. And then in the 7th year he shall go free. The millennial kingdom, what happens in the millennial kingdom? At the beginning. So for 6 years, 6,000 years, men have ruled on this earth. In the 7th year, all right, the 7th year, Messiah is going to rule, okay? And so another picture of in the 7th year is the year of release, and that servant shall go free. And then he has a choice. At the end of 6 years, at the beginning of the 7th year, he has a choice. Do I want to continue to serve him, or do I want to, go free? And so that just kind of made me think that, in the millennial kingdom, there's going to be, several groups of people. One that want to continue to serve him forever, and those that, just want to be free. So there's a couple messianic connections. I'll take one comment, and then we'll close. Okay, I got one in the back here. Go ahead, we need a mic.
Sometimes people were slaves because they owed a debt. And to pay back the debt, they would serve the person.
Yeah.
And so as the debts were forgiven, so was their obligation
Yeah.
to pay it off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, thank you for your participation. We'll take a 5-minute intermission, and then we'll begin the next session of our service. Okay. Read the signs on the door. The rules have kind of changed a little bit, and it's in preparation for when the new sanctuary is done. That end of the building, there's a lot of construction going on, so we want to stay out of that area.